everyone. First of all, I still can't believe that I'm standing on a TEDx stage today. I'm Vennela, a second year engineering student from CSE department CMRIT. Usually my biggest challenge is to stay awake in class after lunch. But today I'm on TEDx stage, I'm wide awake because the story I'm about to tell you guys kept me up at all night. It's about how I completely misunderstood one of my closest friends, and that's my story. Have you ever looked at someone and silently decided what their life must be like? We all do it, sometimes because we care about them, sometimes because we think we are being kind to them. But what if our kindness is actual form of judgment? Today I want to talk about a story, not about broken family, not about tragedy, but how I completely misunderstood one of my closest friends and how two women, a daughter and her mother, taught me what love really looks like. And that's my topic, insider of a single parent child. I studied my intermediate in Narayana Junior College. During my intermediate days, I used to have an amazing group of 8 girls. And we were famously known as last benchers. People often think that last benchers don't study a lot, but we love to prove them wrong every single time. In our college, in our class especially, there used to be a competition between first bencher and last bencher. And last benchers and first bencher competition is very funny, right? So, first benchers compete everything with last benchers, but except while bunking classes. One day we planned to bunk a class. Then I met my friend's friend on that day. I never expected her that she will become that so close to me after that incident. Coincidentally, she was also bunking her class too. Unfortunately, on that day, we both caught by our principal sir on that day. It was very bad day to me. And I really thought why did they caught me? And from there, our friendship began. From that day onwards, she became so close to me. And we started sitting together, and we started sharing our memories, and we started eating together, and we started celebrating special days. One afternoon, college people gave us a college event form. So we started filling up the form. You know what? It was one of those ordinary forms which asked usual details like name, father's name, mother's name, and age. It is one of those ordinary forms. So we started filling up together, and I've completed my form without any second thought. Then I noticed her. She was look at her paper and she silently drew a line through father's name. That situation totally confused me. She started filling up her mother's details. So, you know what? That situation confused me a lot because she smiled at me and she said me that, Vennela, it always been just me and my mother. That was it. It's just a single sentence or a fact to her, but it became a story to me, a story I started writing in my own head. From that day onwards, something changed. Not in her, but in me. I started treating her differently. I started behaving differently. Like whenever the conversations are drifted towards that, I used to interrupt in the middle and I used to change the topic. And whenever if someone joked about their dad, I used to interrupt in middle and before it went too far, I used to stop it. I used to behave like that. On the day of Father's Day celebrations in our college, you know what, I am constantly looking at her and checking on her whether she was feeling sad or not. But without realization, I stopped seeing her who she was actually is. Instead, I only look at her what I assumed in my own head. That situation came to me after a few weeks later. She came near me and she asked me like, can I ask you something, Vennela? And I nodded my head and she smiled at me and she said me that, why are you treating me different, Vennela? I tried to deny the conversation, but she didn't let me to deny it. So she was continuously asking me questions like, ever since you found out about my dad, why are you behaving different with me? And you are changing the conversations and you are interrupting in the middle and you are showing me sympathy. Why are you doing that, Vennela, to me? I tried to deny, but I couldn't able to deny and answer that questions. And something she asked me like, and something she said me like, I couldn't forgot that moment. Like, she said that I don't need your sympathy and I don't need your kindness at all. And she needs what? Like, she needs only the sympathy. After such situation, I totally confused a lot. And she said me that my mom and me are just enough. That sentences are stayed with me a lot. After that conversation, I was, many questions are running throughout my mind. Like, if she didn't feel incomplete, what she did feel? Why was I convinced she was feeling incomplete? That situation came up with me, and then onwards, I stopped looking at her and focusing on what she didn't have, and I started focusing on what she did have. I started noticing few little points, like few little situations, and focused on little things like whenever she got her intermediate results, she lives with her grandparents. Unfortunately, on that day, there was no one at the house. So it was me and her. So, you know what? She started crying a lot. I couldn't able to control it. And, she got very less marks on that results. From that situation, she started crying a lot. I couldn't able to control her. She called her mother and she told like, Mama, I got less marks. Then her mother, instead of scolding her, instead of angry on her, instead of blaming her, she just reminded one situation and she reminded her failures are temporary. With confidence and with hard work, you can get over them. She just reminded her. Then her cousin called her to check on her and he gently comforted her. After that, the bell door was rang. I went with a curiosity to open the door. It was her cousin. He did straight rush from the function and he came near her. And he told like, instead of asking anything, he said to bring him a glass of water. She brought her a glass of water and you know what happened? Then he sent her again and again. She was irritated and frustrated. We all know that brothers will often irritate us at unmost and unexpected moments. So her brother irritated her a lot, but she, even without realizing it, she had stopped crying. Then he smiled at her and he taken her to a restaurant to buy her favorite food. And later her grandparents came home and they gently hugged her and gently comforted her. And at night, her aunt and her uncle sent a box of brownies to her. It wasn't about favorite food, it wasn't about brownies, but it was about the comfort they gave at her tough times. We often think that single parent family is incomplete. Was a family incomplete due to one person is missing? Or a family incomplete with everyone else choose to stay? Yet there was another question like, if my friend didn't feel incomplete, what about her mother? How did she carry everything all around? That question running toward my mind, and one time I happened to be there at her house. My friend left me and her mother and stepped out of the home to buy a little few things. Then few minutes we sat in silence, me and her mother. Then I started asking question like, Auntie, can I ask you some question? Then she smiled at me and she said, of course. I hesitated, but I started asking a question like, how did you manage, Auntie? How did you do it all by yourself? She looked at me for a few minutes and she said me that, and she smiled me, not a smile of everyone whose journey has been easy, but a smile of someone who thought to make peace with it. After that she said me something like, people often think single parent issue is to earning money, but it isn't. The hardest part of single parent is to carry all her burdens alone, and making sure the child never feels like she is carrying her burdens. That was the hardest part. And she continues saying me like, Vennela, my daughter knows everything. She has seen me cry. She has seen me, coming exhausted to home. She has seen me everything. I couldn't able to hide those moments from her. But every morning I got up again, because children don't need perfect parents. They need only the parents who never stop showing up again. Then she paused for a few minutes and she said something like, I couldn't able to forget that situation now also. She said me that I couldn't able to give her luxury Vennela, but I promised myself she will never ask me a question she was loved or not. From that situation onwards, I stopped changing the conversation, and I stopped seeing my friend with sympathy, without sympathy. And I changed it a lot, because that's all she ever wanted. No pity, no sympathy, and no sympathy at all. And that's what she ever wanted, just a normal friendship. Today, whenever someone comes me and when someone asks me like she is from single parent family, I don't hear single anymore. I only hear resilience and sacrifice, courage and braveness. I only hear these words because sometimes the child we pity doesn't need our sympathy. What she needs then is for us to stop seeing her incomplete, because she never felt she was incomplete. And perhaps the person who needs our deepest respect isn't the child at all. It is her mother, it's the parent who sacrificed her dreams and her passion and certainty. from that situation onwards, I stopped seeing her with sympathy, because the family matters about how many persons are there in their family. It matters how much love they give to her. And thank you so much, CMRIT and TEDx team.